For years, they were teammates, but tonight, Caps and Perkz face each other on the LEC stage as enemies. Combined,
Perkz.
Caps, good to see you.
Likewise. You shouldn't have come back here. The LEC isn't big enough for the two of us.
I would know. I've been clapping teams since before your nickname.
Then heading out to retirement last year was a good idea.
I hope you learned a few things while I've been away. Manners, clearly not being one of them.
Your powers are weak, old man.
You still got a lot to learn, boy. My ethereal chains will destroy you.
I had to move when your perm is stunned by my gold card.
My shockwave will make short work of that.
Right before my package destroys your entire team.
That's my move.
I know.
Well, it doesn't stand a chance when I use my skeleton league.
Oh yeah? Well, countered by my Hex, Void, Ray.
Wait, that's an ability?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I never learned the names.
Yeah, same.
Hey, we shouldn't fight.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's go grab a snack?
Sure, let's go. Wait, Caps, are we psychic?
Welcome to Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC and week 8, day 2 of the spring season. Can you hear me? Yes, okay, sorry.
Yes,
I don't know what was going on. Anyways, I was just trying to see if you guys were all awake, and you are. SK, they beat Rogue yesterday. That was an upset, and now SK is entering the studio once again to continue their road towards playoffs, possibly as they play Excel, who will finally want to lock those playoffs. My name is Shox, and I'm joined by Kadril and Niski. I just thought you can hear me, but I'm just going to turn everything up a little bit.
Now you can hear everything.
Yes,
now we're back in business.
Perfect. My own bad. Niski, how was your first day, and were you surprised by how things are going here in the LEC?
My first day was actually pretty good. I mean, how can it go bad when you guys are around me? But I mean, it's fun to see the games from like another perspective, I guess. And I feel like when you watch it just as a viewer, you don't analyze as much. But when I gotta like analyze them, then it gives me like a different view.
Your job to analyze,
I
right?
guess, yeah.
You're here, so yeah. Even though the people on Reddit think it's their job, it's not. So let's take a look at the standings after that day of upsets. Yesterday, it was pretty simple coming into this week, right? Excel Team Vitality each just needed to win one game. SK Gaming and Mad Lions needed to win every single game, and SK and Mad both won yesterday.
Yeah, the stars aligned to make sure that we had an exciting day 2. And maybe we'll have an exciting day 3 if they align once again, because Vitality and Excel lost, SK and Mad won, and I mean the first game of the day was SK versus Rogue. That's where it all could have ended and gotten Excel straight into playoffs. They were watching that game probably very closely, like, well, surely Rogue win, right? Wrong. Got Gilius on Lee Sin, popping off. SK just taking over the entire map and taking down our #1 team in the league on stage for their first time.
Yeah, Niski, we talked about it a lot already, but it did look like a tremendous difference. Of course, a nice draft for SK, but a lot of confidence coming out of them on stage.
Yeah, I feel like right now they're playing so much better than what they used to. Maybe it's stage, maybe it's that they got nothing to lose anymore. So I just want to see the same SK today, and I think if they play as they did yesterday, they would probably beat Excel.
Yeah, that's an interesting mentality when you're kind of like down in the dirt, you're defeated, you need 3 wins, and if enemy teams win 1 game, you're out. The mentality is a lot different than, guys, we just need 1 win, right? We just need 1 win, and then you lose, and it just kind of knocks you down. Well, we still got 2 chances left, right? But the enemy team just thinking, well, if we lose, we're out anyway, so let's just give it everything.
So dangerous indeed. And Mad Lions, well, they bounced back super impressively yesterday. They beat Vitality, which is in fact, Niski, Mad Lions' first win in the second half, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yesterday they looked very confident, and like even though they were behind, I felt like they knew kind of what to do in mid-game, and I think one big plus for them was that FLICKR, I felt like, was really comfortable yesterday on his TF. And I want to see it again today if it's open for him.
And that's kind of what Rico was known for in the ERLs. He was known for roaming mids, Ryze, TF being the prominent picks for him. And I think the important thing in this game for Mad Lions was they gave last pick to Elyoya, which is kind of rare in the current meta. Normally you see counter picks for support or top lane on red side. This time around we got the counter pick jungle, which just works so magnificently into their comp of Diana, Yasuo, Renekton, Dive. And it was instrumental in the fights, a lot of comfort as well. Yes, Rico, yes, Elyoya. But Armut on his Gnar, very, very comfortable. Unforgiven's Jinx was also flawless.
Yeah, Unforgiven, and that's going to be a well-needed motivational boost for Unforgiven, who had been looking for his form, and really insane last pick with the Poppy. Now, Hylissang, he also had, I think it was the last pick, I can't even remember, but he played Renata for the first time, and he also gave us the first competitive win on Renata worldwide. The Professor does it again, and we've got a Professor of our own in this case, so what did you think?
I mean, I really like the pick, actually. I don't know if it was actually really good in the draft or they're just like trying to scare enemies, but I felt like with Caitlyn, it's a good combo because you just place a trap, or you grab first and then place a trap, and then Renata can place the champion again, and yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good in the hands of Hylissang, so I want to see it more if possible.
That was the most interesting interaction with the pull into trap, which was so flawless, because a lot of the times you think of Lux, you think of Morgana, reliable CC, but no, you can just pull them into them with this champion. And of course, we were listening to Medic talk about Renata, and me and Niski were discussing it. It's good into dive comps, melee champs, short range, and that's basically what their comp had. You know, when you're looking at Ari, Tam Kench, Aatrox, Xin Zhao, these champions are diving on you, so the ult will always get good value.
And Fnatic has the last laugh because they won with it. They don't even have to pick it again, but now going into those best of fives, people will think, do we now have to ban this against Healy
yeah, especially
as well?
with 2 weeks of patches. I think there's going to be another 2 patches or so before playoffs. Maybe it gets buffed, maybe it gets nerfed, maybe they've got more things up their sleeves. It's dangerous.
All right, buff all the supports. Let's see it. In any case, speaking about supports, Medic, what do all the results of yesterday now, how do they rather influence all the matches for today and the playoff implications?
Well, we thought things were pretty cut and dry, Shocks, but it actually might not end up that way. Playoff chances are still alive for our remaining 4 teams that are battling. So let's have a look at where we are in terms of the standings. Up at the top, obviously, Fnatic and Rogue, alongside Misfits and G2, have locked playoffs. XL, Vitality, SK, and Mad Lions all fighting for these final 2 spots. And the interesting thing is, obviously, it looks pretty easy for XL and Vitality. They only need to win 1 more game for them to lock a spot in playoffs. SK and Mad Lions need to win both of their remaining games and hope that XL and Vitality lose. We'll have a look at exactly what these teams are playing up against. XL, obviously, in our first game today, will play SK. If they win that, they're in playoffs. They finally reached the promised land. Vitality need to win over either G2 or Astralis. On the other side of things, Mad Lions, Astralis, and BDS, they should be able to pick up those 2 wins, but they do need things to go their way. And SK probably have the hardest road if they're going to make it into playoffs. However, there are still a few really cool scenarios that remain, and I wanted to have a look at this 4-way tie. So if XL lose both their games, and if Vitality lose both their games, and SK win both their games, and Mad Lions win both their games, everyone's at 8-8. And you might wonder, well, how do we resolve this tiebreak? What we do is we look at the combined head-to-head between all 4 teams in the tie. XL with a 2-0 versus Vitality and 1-1 versus Mad and SK have a total of 4-2. And because that's the highest total of all the teams, XL would claim 5th place in this tiebreaker. Vitality would claim 8th because they have the lowest with that 0-2 against XL. And you may be wondering, well, what happens with SK and Mad Lions? Because they're both at 3-3. In this scenario, we look at the isolated head-to-head between those 2 teams. And because SK have gone 2-0 versus Mad Lions, SK would actually take our final playoff spot. This scenario is incredibly unlikely, but we'll get to know more about how things are going to resolve as the day goes on. If you want to follow all the action yourselves, you can look at our foldy sheet. It's at lec.gg/foldy sheet on the internet. And for now, I'll hand it back over to the analysts to break down the day's games.
I'm so glad it's on the internet. That's really great. Now, while Kevin has abandoned us for Valorant, his memory lives on, which is purely unacceptable. We've taken Kevin's game, you might remember, from last split, and turned it into curveball analysis. Here's our Overlord in just a second. Nope. Okay, anyways. Our analyst will give us the breakdown as we break it down. There we go. With our producers and our writer throwing curveball rules at us that must be followed. So basically, I will contribute as well, and you'll see how it works after the first example. Don't worry. So the statements that, or what I need to do basically is explain how the Mad Lions bounce back. While roaring at the end of every sentence as Vedius. How do you roar in Welsh?
Wait, roaring at Vedius?
All right. So, Mad Lions, they bounce back. Unforgiven found his form. Rar. Elyoya is the hero we know and deserve. He got the last pick and he cleaned house. Rar.
That sounded very posh.
Welsh roars. It was nice to see that Armut was on his champion and that he knows how to play in Gnar. Forgive me, Gnar. Mac drafted good for the first time this season. Roar.
Perfect. I think you've done it right. I think she's done it perfectly.
The next one is for Kadril. From As Arceus on Discord. Kadril, explain why Twisted Fate is a high prio champion.
Okay.
While using only Formula 1 metaphors.
Okay. So TF has a button that can open up his DRS, and that allows him to take the inside track to other lanes faster, so he gets a faster lap time. So basically he can get there first. And when he's got his 2 items, he has a very powerful engine, and he has a lot of horsepower in that engine. And the amount of horsepower he has translates to how much CC he has. With his yellow card, similar to the McLaren, which is orange, or actually the Renault of previous years, he can stun the enemies, lock them down, and sometimes crash into them.
Wow, really nice. All right, the next one is for Niski. What is the best moment you had in the LCS, your fondest memory, but you have to say it all in an American accent?
What?
In an American accent?
What? I don't have an American accent.
Clearly, that's the joke.
Okay. What?
You just have to say y'all.
Yeah.
Yo.
Okay, so my best memory from LCS was probably when when I came back to Europe. No, I'm joking. It was when I beat TL in playoffs, I believe, or we made so that they did not make playoffs. While also we backdoored that game as well with Sven and Vulcan. So yeah, I'm sorry for my accent. It was not the best, but I tried.
Add a French Belgian to do an American accent is literally so hard. The last one, Kadril. Deliver a monologue about who you think is the most underrated player in the LEC directly to the handheld camera. You cannot break eye contact or stop monologuing under any circumstance.
Okay, I'll try my best. Most underrated player in the LEC. I'm going to say Misfits Neon, because he's kind of overshadowed a little bit by Vito. And although Misfits had this old roster of Cobbett, the reliable AD carry, now they've got Neon, who's a lot more explosive, a lot more resources. He's popping off on things like Zeri and Jinx. I just dropped camera for a second, but that doesn't count because I was looking at the floor for a second. Neon is the most underrated player in the LEC.
Lovely. Did a really good job.
Pretty good.
Yeah. It's secretly because you need to work on your camera focus. They snuck that in, I think.
Just gotta follow the red light.
Okay, we need to Twisted Fate walk over to the telestrator for our segment.
Twisted Fate. He does like. How does he walk like this?
I don't know. I
You're
the
remaining
champion,
team.
but I don't know how he
You
walks
beat
like
G2 with it.
Does anyone know? Gold card. Wait, gold card.
I'm stunned.
I actually don't know.
Okay, so.
Serious business here.
Serious business time.
Anyways, fear not. We are actually also going to do some serious analysis. And Kadril, he's actually spotted some specifics on how the LPL and LCK teams use Baron to close out games incredibly fast, and also how they use the objective to not necessarily do the objective, but get a huge advantage in the game.
Yeah, a lot of LEC teams tunnel vision on when can we do Nash, item power spike so they can rush Nash down, pushing the enemies onto vision, then trying to force it or trying to make picks when they come in. But a lot of the Eastern teams in the LCK and the LPL are very, very creative. So we're going to look at 2 examples from T1. There's a couple of LPL examples as well, but we don't have enough time, so we're just going to run through T1's ones because they're the best, I think. So let's look at the current situation. T1 are actually pushing mid-tier 1. Now, it's around 20 minutes in the game. Baron just spawned. One thing I just want to draw your attention to before we start this play is there's already pings. Are you right there? Was it a Twisted Fate red card? There's already pings towards the Baron, so they're already kind of consciously thinking we're going to play for Nash straight after this tower dies. Now, They're going to siege it in, they're going to get it, the wave's going to die, but because they have enough range champions, it's pretty easy. Gen G can't contest this. This was earlier on in the week, they take the tower. Now, when T1 moved towards the Nash, I think Gen G are probably like, 2-item Rise and Aphelios with white and red gun, maybe they want to rush it down, let's get vision on them. So Chovy actually moves around towards the left-hand side with Peanut to make sure that they can check if T1 are doing Baron. Now, the play is actually not the Baron at all, whatsoever. T1 are just faking this. All they're going to do is, because mid-tier 1 is down, they actually have a lot of vision to work with on this ward. So what they're going to do is, as Gen G show 2 members towards the top side, Faker's going to fake the Nash, stop actually hitting it completely, and then rise ult onto Lehens, who's completely caught off guard because that mid tower just fell. So as much as the play was looking like a Baron, it was actually to find a pick to translate it into a Baron.
Is this specific one very red side?
This could work on blue side as well, I think. Just depends on how the vision's looking. Now, this play actually doesn't amount to anything. I mean, to the human eye, it's just kind of like looking for a pick, job done. T1 get nothing here, but the idea is very, very creative.
So to the human eye, but not to Faker's.
Not to Faker's eyes.
No,
He's looking for the
right.
pick. So we've got one more
Yes,
clip,
we
I
do.
believe, of the same game that T1's playing. Now, this is 24 minutes into the game, and it's a dragon fight. So we'll just look at the minimap real quick, because if you look at dragon fights and you look at the actual stage of the game, most teams, when they try to contest dragons, especially if they don't have vision or they're a little bit further behind, they can't really come through river and try to walk into your vision because then you're face checking. A lot of the times what they do is they just kind of run down through bot, and they have some kind of bot vision to work with, so you're not face checking, and then basically battle lines are kind of drawn through the middle. So T1 know this, they're just going to flip the dragon, they don't want to fight, they're going to disengage from Doran. They're placed the Baron again. As soon as this dragon dies, they realize, wait, all of Gen G are on the bot side of dragon, and we have a Rise ult. How quick can we do Nash in 24 minutes? They run towards mid, clear the wave, instantly Rise ult towards it, and they rush it down. Now, looking at Doran, looking at Peanut, they have about 10 to 15 seconds before they can show up. If you play it out, T1 just completely just force the Baron, they get it instantly, and seconds away from when Peanut's about to arrive, it's already gone. So T1 just have such a good idea of how tempo works around the map.
Is this if you're an opponent? Well, first off, you have to be good enough, of course, but if you see these tendencies and you know that it's mostly around the most important objective, which is Baron, can you start to calculate the counter moves as an enemy team? Or is it too difficult?
I think it's quite difficult because it's also very champion dependent, right?
Yeah.
With Azir and Jinx, you can one-shot Baron on the spot, so you have a lot more time to work with. In this case, Rise, you can kind of use tempo as a cheat by just ulting to the objective itself.
And they do it in different ways, so it's not like it's a cut and dry plan. And here in the LEC, 2 of the most decorated players in EU history will clash later tonight as Perkz and Team Vitality will face Caps and G2 Esports in the LG Ultra Gear Match of the Week.
We are now entering the last week of spring and the teams have everything to play for. And the final 3 games will decide their future.
So this match against Vitality is super important. It will basically decide who gets the top 4 seed. So we really need to make sure we win it.
I don't really feel too stressed with our current situation. I've been in this spot already many times, so it's nothing new to me.
And especially because we're also playing against Perkz. I need to make sure that I beat him and give him back from last time we played.
Shockwave on to 2! The hook coming in from LeBron. He hits him last game, he hits him this game.
Maybe he's expecting Alfaro to go aggressive. Selfmade's behind as well.
Can leap in, flash in on him!
Vitality need to find a way past these traps, past the Corki package.
Falling away, instantly Selfmade gonna leap in, he's gonna get it! Carzzy stepping up, stepping forward and knocking down G2 Esports.
It'll always be fun playing against them. The club that I built. It's just more fun than playing against people who you've never faced before, right? And you can get more excited for the match.
A rivalry that has spanned multiple teams and multiple years once again bubbles to the surface.
So Perkz and me have been playing against each other for a long time now.
Season 6, I was just better than everybody else.
When I joined the league in 2017, he was the mid lane to beat. He proceeds to win 2 more against me.
I felt like threatened by him. He was definitely one of the most talented players that's ever joined the league.
I really want to beat him, and luckily I did the next year. Only for us to then join together.
Now it's even more fun to face him.
There's a lot of games against each other, a lot of solo kills, and I'm hoping that I get a few more this game.
First blood to Baby Faker!
He just solo killed Perkz!
Who has more trophies?
Europe kneels to its champion!
Who's the most successful player of all time? Well, That answers the question, right?
Facing Selfmade is always fun, right? He's also playing with my ex mid laner, so I want to show that, you know, he made a mistake by leaving me and going to Selfmade. That makes sense.
This is the final week of the LEC and the final hurdle for each of these teams.
Fantastic video. So cool to see these storylines. And I know we love our narrative here in the LEC, but come on, let me nerd out for a second.
Good times.
This is so cool.
This is such good times.
It's also so nice to see those images from way back when and all the successes and maybe also heartbreaks these two have had. And now we have Vitality still fighting for their spot in playoffs. G2 looking to have the most favorable position going into the playoffs. It's going to be a banger.
There's so many different things in this matchup. I mean, yes, they've had success together. They had success against each other. I mean, now you've got these two players where G2 have struggled to find anything. Ever since they lost Perkz last year, they didn't win a finals, they didn't go to an international event whatsoever. So he's there to make sure that they're kept down.
And speaking of Caps, Niski, you alluded to it yesterday, but it feels like Caps is ramping up. Yesterday on his Azir, before that on Silas, he's been scary.
Yeah, I feel like he's been scary. Also, he plays the champions that he was really good at before as well. So it makes me feel like he comes back to his form, you know, and it makes me really happy to see it. And today we'll see if he does the same against Perkz and see if Perkz can maybe stop him or not.
Has the meta evolved in the favor of these two mid laners?
I think so, yeah. I think going away from like the Corki Victor meta has been good for Caps at least. I don't really know about Perkz, but for Caps for sure it's a plus. Being able to play like Silas, Akali, all that is good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you cast your mind back to 2019. Those were the champions that were first picked. Irelia, Akali, Yasuo was the game that he played against Damwon, where he's playing Halo Blades, diving top, playing side lanes really well. So I think anything that has some sort of playmaking is what Caps' kind of wheelhouse is all about. I mean, the Azir, we saw loads of playmaking happening, but I mean, he was trying to roam top, but the champion itself is just weaker in the early. But if you get 5 kills, then of course you can do that job anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Vitality, on the other hand, as said, they lost to the Mad Lions yesterday. Do we feel like they are a team that rises to the occasion when they play against a better team? Not that Mad Lions are bad, that came out completely wrong. But
I can see your point, though.
Okay.
I think when there's stakes and there's pressure, I think that those players definitely thrive in that environment. They definitely drop the ball against Mad Lions, though. I mean, their draft was something that we'd see in week 1 with the Diana first pick, Renekton, Yasuo. That's what Mad Lions played against them in week 1, right? So now they're playing it against Mad Lions in week 8. It's kind of confusing. Maybe it was something that was working in scrims for them because it's a very heavy topside-centric kind of draft, and that's what favors those players.
We'll see what happens versus G2. And now let's also take a look at what other games we have in store today. XL versus SK. We'll talk about it at length in just a second. That is so important. XL needs to win to get into the playoffs. SK needs to win to stay in the playoff race. We also have Fnatic versus Misfits and Vitality versus G2. That Fnatic Misfits game is also going to be very interesting in terms of the top of the table.
Yeah, because I think Rogue, Fnatic, and G2 are locked top 4. And they're going to be fighting for basically placing, right? And as much as it's interesting, I'm kind of scared that we're going to get a scenario where if Rogue finishes first, they're just going to pick the team on 3-4 that's not Fnatic. So even if you finish second, you might get them anyway. So we'll see how that plays out.
So you kind of like Fnatic to be in the
second place,
maybe.
and then, you know, you can
see what happens. Well, ahead of the first game of the day, Lore is joined by YoungBuck on how XL will finally secure their playoff spot today.
Thank you, Shax and YoungBuck. Thank you so much for joining me ahead of today's game. Can we talk a bit about the game yesterday? How did you address it? Because I saw you posting a tweet saying that G2 has always been your kryptonite in Scrim. Could you elaborate on that and the difficulties you had facing off against them?
Yeah, since Mickey has joined our team, I think we've beaten every single team in the LEC relatively consistently in practice. But G2 really has our number. Like their win rate against us is very high. So we felt like if we're going to lose a game this week, it's probably going to be G2. There's a lot of pressure on us as well to win the game. And they've just been doing very well because I feel like they know what we want to do and they know exactly how to counter it.
And thinking about the games you will have for the rest of the week, SK today, they faced off against Rogue yesterday. It didn't go the expected way, I would say. Were you surprised by any of SK's play, drafts, and in-game plays maybe?
In terms of play and draft, I wasn't too surprised. I was a little bit more surprised by Rogue. I feel like they were experimenting a bit and walking the line of what is a good draft and not, because they were giving away some really big priority picks later in the draft. And I think we will not make the same mistake.
And focusing more on the matchup per se, I want to think about the jungle because we know about Gilius, especially in difficult situations and how he can turn the tide. And a few words maybe on about the jungle matchup today.
I think it's a pretty even matchup, and a lot will come down to how highly they prioritize picking jungle in in the draft, like how early they want to pick something strong, because Mark is really good at playing a similar style to Gilius, one that is good at fighting, skirmishing. So they need to put effort into the draft to get a good situation for Gilius, and if they don't, then I think Markoon will outperform him.
All right, and more generally, where should we keep our eyes on in the early game especially?
We're blue side, so I can say it, we're going to win through bot lane, and there's nothing they can do about it in the draft, so they have to find other means to do it. And yeah, we'll see how that goes.
All right, we'll see how creative they can be. Now, last question, YoungBuck. You've seen the memes during all the week. We saw how things played out yesterday. Are you a superstitious man?
I am superstitious. The team is superstitious. We're all wearing lucky socks, lucky shirts. Everything that we've been wearing since going 3-0 on stage, we're finding every little angle just to get a little bit of extra luck and confidence on our side.
Well, I wish you the best of luck today against SK. Thank you so much for the interview, YoungBuck. And Shox, back to you.
Superstitious, eh?
Yeah, well, I'm still here, so they can't be that superstitious,
Also,
right?
did he say they've been wearing the same socks since week 3?
They found the socks since they won, and they're in 3-0, and they're like, yeah.
However, I love what he said, though, about the bot lane. They can't do anything about it in the draft. We're going to win through the bot lane because we're blue side. I love that. We're going to get to it as well. Maybe we can jump to it. Let's talk about the bot lane first, because obviously we know Mickey and Patrick, they can be incredibly strong. Yesterday, we saw Mickey on Yuumi, though, Niski. So what do you think about that strategy when it is the strongest thing you have on your team?
I mean, I think it's good that they prioritize blue side and that they actually know that they need to plan on their bot lane, because I do believe that's their biggest strength of XL right now. But I want to see how SK does against it, because I felt like yesterday Treats and Jezu played really, really good. So maybe also pressure gets to them, because I don't know how Patrick handles a lot of pressure, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think both teams will be clashing in bot lane 100%. Engage supports moving towards mid, impacting the map. Mid push will be so important. Back to bot and kind of hand-holding each other in this bot side river.
And is it true when he says you can't do anything about it and pick a man anyway? It seems like it, because how are you going to ban out everything? Do you just ban out the Jinx and the Aphelios?
It sounds to me like they're probably first picking AD carry if they're going to play through bot and on blue side. Because to me, if I think of playing through bot red side, counter pick on support is what I would value the most. If you're trading Jinx Aphelios and you get counter support, that's how you would win it.
I'm going to put a pin in this because we have pick and ban together later, so we can pick that back up. But yeah, bot lane is going to be such an incredible focal point for this one. Now, SK Gaming, of course, they came into the week having to win every single game, and they've started by winning versus Rogue. So can you break down their winning formula and what they'll have to replicate today to do it again?
Yeah, I think there's just so many different picks that they need to I think there's a couple picks that they've had throughout the entire split that's working for them. Gilius' Lee Sin was a surprise to us all because it went through to 4-5, and it actually worked so well. His playmaking was fantastic. But if you look at these picks here, Leona, 5 wins, 1 loss. Treats, SK have 6 wins right now, so that pick is huge for them. Gilius is Hecarim. We saw it in the Miracle run as well a couple of years ago, where he was just one-tricking Hecarim, popping off and just doing so well as well on things like Kha'Zix and Lee Sin. So they need to be careful around giving Hecarim over to SK. And Graves, I think, is just such a favorable blind pick top laner for Genax. So those picks are what I'm keeping my eye on in case SK do get them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm thinking about the mid lane specifically. I think Sertus should play something that has push, as we said before. I think if Genax has Graves or Gwen, I think they're going to do pretty good. And I hope that I see Jezu on Jinx, but I'm assuming it's going to be banned.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky one when it comes to that bot lane. I'd love to see not Aphelios or Jinx in this game, but we'll see indeed.
Zeri.
Zeri, oh right, we forgot about Zeri. He always gets banned anyways as well. For XL though, as said, they are on the brink of locking playoffs for the first time, and just so you know the stats, before yesterday they would be able to make playoffs in 97.3% of all remaining scenarios. Now that's dropped down to 90.6% of all remaining scenarios. If they lose today, it's 81.3% of remaining scenarios. But all you have to remember is that they're playing Fnatic tomorrow.
That's the interesting thing, because if SK win today, that puts them at 7 wins, XL's on 8. We go fast forward to tomorrow. XL are playing against Fnatic in the 4th game. But SK's playing against Misfits earlier on the day.
Well.
So if SK do beat Misfits then it's pressure on for XL. That's a lot of weight in a best of 1 to decide the split.
And for XL, it's happened like this before, where it came down to another result with Schalke in the end overtaking them. A little birdie also told me that the players are pretty nervous, I think on both sides, which is no surprise to anyone. But Niski, you can't replicate this. You can't practice this, right? Where you only have this one game or this handful of games that are going to decide your entire season.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's when you know when players actually can shine and they can really outperform their enemies. Is under pressure, when you really need to perform, when you need to do better than your enemy. And I think for me, I really want to look at Patrick and Mickey and see them smurf this game. And I feel like if they don't, then I'd be not necessarily disappointed, but I think they can do it. And I believe they can, yeah.
Maybe it was a long con yesterday with the Yuumi. They're like, okay, we're going to keep our actual weapon for when we need it when we play XL. I mean, could be, but...
Just small hits on the Yuumi. I mean, I think when they blind picked Tahm Kench, they had a lot of options. Yuumi was one of them to pair up with the Gwen, but it's a very kind of minor win condition when just picking something like Varus Karma for bot push would work. Even Braum into those champions that they had would work functionally pretty well. The Yuumi is a bit of a risk because I think you need to play something like Ezreal with the Yuumi or something that has mobility to can actually pop off towards 2 or 3 items. With Poke Varus, as much as it kind of worked against enemy comp, it doesn't pair so well with Yuumi, it feels like.
We'll see what happens. We're also going to cover picks and bans right here on the desk in just a second. Remember, you can also follow along with all the scenarios at lec.gg/foldysheet because I listened to that whole medic spiel and I was still confused. That's because I'm not very strong at math. In any case, we're going to start day 2 of the Super Week in Week 8 right now with XL versus SK. Before we get into the draft, last guidance for XL maybe, since we haven't talked about their draft that much yet.
Yeah, blue side. I mean, if Joey says, YoungBuck says they're going to play through bot expecting AD first pick, but if the thing is, you can have a plan going into a draft, but if they kind of pivot and the enemy bans are different, you need to kind of adapt and first pick something like Ryze, perhaps.
We're about to find out with the draft for SK versus XL.